Welcome to Scrolling to Death. Today I have a repeat guest, the wonderful Titania Jordan of Bark Technologies. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm so excited to be talking to you. Oh my gosh. I mean, every single day I open up my social media and I'm like, oh, there's another powerful post from Nikki. Like, you are doing some amazing work.
Thank you. There's too much even to narrow it down. There's always something to share, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you do the same. Okay, so we talked recently, and one thing that really perked me up was you talking about the lack of parental controls available with the iPhone.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share a story with you. I was at school pickup the other day, and I was chatting with another student's grandpa, and he asked what I do, and I told him about the podcast, and we got to talking about like harmful products, and I mentioned the iPhone. He said, quote, "Oh, I have like 8 old iPhones in my drawer at home, and I was about to give one to each of my grandkids. Like, should I not do that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No, you should not." For me, this is such a common story that I hear that I think we need to more specifically address, because it can be easy to just grab that old iPhone and hand it to your kid. But there's some specific reasons why you should not do that. So today I was hoping we can compare the experiences of giving a child or a teen an iPhone versus the Bark phone.
Yeah. Great topic. Yeah, this comes up again and again and again of why iPhones are not great for kids. And, full disclosure, I'm talking to you on my MacBook Air. I have an Apple Watch. I have an iPhone.
Yep.
I love so much about the Apple ecosystem and user interface and branding, right, as a marketing person. So
yeah,
I'm not anti-Apple. I am anti-Apple for children because of how they have rolled out their parental controls, because of how they have not fixed or owned up to certain bugs in their parental controls that put children at risk.
Yep.
And I'm not a fan of Apple for how they have neglected to work with platforms like Bark that could actually keep kids safe and save children's lives. And finally, really not a fan of Apple for their stance on CSAM, child sexual abuse material that is able to be stored in the iCloud. They reversed a decision to remove that a little over a year ago, and that is a very bad look.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know about that. Let's go point by point. For people who are not familiar with Bark Technologies or the Bark phone, can you give them like the short intro?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So Bark started in 2015 by a dad whose company, his startup was acquired by Twitter. So super tech savvy, super smart, understands social media. It came time for him to give his older son a device that could access the internet. And when he saw the landscape of parental controls, he realized, wow, this is not good. And knowing what I know, him, if he wasn't able to adequately keep his kids safer online, how much worse off were other parents across the globe? So he left Twitter, started Bark.
Yep.
Bark started as artificial intelligence, an app that could connect to children's devices, accounts, social media, YouTube, email, you name it, analyze the content and context of that communication, and then send parents alerts when their children experience danger. Because so many children were getting smartphones younger and younger and younger, the need for the app obviously increased in droves. But we were also seeing an increase for the demand on school-issued devices and accounts. So we actually rolled out our tech for free to any school in the United States. So we then had an app for parents, paid, a free app for schools in the United States. Then we expanded to have the Bark Home, which was an in-home device to help limit screen time, because, not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but there are certain elements of tech that can't be controlled by an app, whether it's your child's PlayStation or a smart TV, but you still need to limit that. So we checked that box. And then finally, a little over a year ago, we launched the Bark smartphone because of this issue that we're talking about today, because iPhones consistently serve headaches to parents for trying to keep their kids safer online. iPhones consistently put kids in danger because of their updates and because of their bugs. And we thought, if children are going to be connected to tech, there needs to be a better, safer way. Tech is neither good nor bad. It's a tool. And so if children need to be able to text with trusted contacts like parents and good friends, if parents need to be able to track location, and if and when parents want to allow a child to access a browser or a certain app, there needs to be a way for parents to do that safely. And so that's the Bark phone.
Amazing. What I'd like to do is go through what are the main things that I would want my kid's first phone to be able to do. And then we can talk through like, how does Bark address that? And how does the iPhone address that? So first you mentioned tracking their location. So a geolocator. And obviously parents want to know where their kid is. It gives them some reassurance. So from what I understand, this is obviously available on an iPhone through the Find My area. And then this is available on the Bark phone. Are there any differences when it comes to geolocators, or it's sort of just like standard?
It's standard. I'd say they both, they're pretty comparable.
Yeah, agree. Okay. Probably the second most important thing I would only want my child to have access to certain apps and certain functionality. So when I first give my child a phone, I'd really only want them to be able to text or call a few trusted people, family members, maybe have a map. Like, I really can't think of much else I'd want for that first device. And from what I understand with the iPhone, it's virtually impossible. Like, there are apps that you cannot even remove, like the Safari internet browser. Is that true?
So that's where it gets complicated and frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
When you go buy your child an iPhone or even give them a hand-me-down iPhone, that iPhone doesn't arrive automatically safe. It's open. There's no parental controls. You have to go after the fact and proactively implement adding your child to your Apple ID and Family Safety Center and toggle all kinds of options for what you do or do not want them to access and when. Sometimes those things work against each other. And like I mentioned, there are bugs. For example, you think you're setting a time limit for your child, but they can just request one more minute, or they can go in and change the time zone so that it doesn't work. I mean, we don't have enough time to go through all the problems with Apple parental controls. Now, I will say it's not horrific. I mean, they do give you the ability to limit certain types of content. Now, that can't be applied blanketly, but it's a nice touch.
Yeah.
You can set up it so that you have to approve all app downloads for your children, which is imperative. You have to do that.
Yeah.
But then flip side, if let's say you let your child download Snapchat and then you listen to this podcast and realize, ooh, that was a bad idea. And then you go to delete it from their phone. Well, they've already downloaded it. It's in their iCloud. They can just re-download it without your approval.
Mm.
No matter what you do, if you're a parent and your child has an iPhone, you're going to continue to come up against barriers. Now, with the Bark phone, you can make it so that your child can access whatever you want or not access whatever you don't want. And you can change your mind. And it's very, very easy. If you want that phone to be a brick that tells time, cool. If you want it to be able to text, great. You want it to be able to take photos or not take photos? Like, everything is fully customizable on the Bark phone, which honestly, it's crazy to me that Apple hasn't done the same.
Yeah. Okay. So to review, like, Apple iPhone has everything pre-installed and turned on, and you have to do a lot of work confusing adjustments to the settings, and it's not cemented in. Like, if they do download you approve something one time, you want to change your mind, it's still there for them to access. Where the Bark phone comes like empty, and you get to choose what goes on there and approve.
The Bark phone arrives safe, and you have to proactively, like, very intentionally say, I would like for my child to be able to access this. And we make sure, whether it's a contact approval or a browser or an app download, we'll not only double check, but we'll send you an email, like, letting you know, hey, just so you know, your child now has Instagram. Here's some things you need to know about it.
Yeah.
Over communication. I'm in my Apple family section right now. Looking on my child. I just have one child. And the purchase approval, the subscriptions, the screen time alone. You've got to navigate downtime, app limits, what's always allowed, communication limits, which is different than communication safety, which is different than content and privacy. Just like, who
Oh
has time
God,
for this?
that's
I
confusing.
don't have time for this. This is my job, Nikki.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really, really just maddening, Apple recently released communication safety, which sounds great, right? It sounds like a really helpful thing.
Yeah.
And communication safety can detect nude photos and videos before they're sent or viewed on your child's device and provide guidance and age-appropriate resources to help them make safe choices.
Okay.
That sounds great. But you know
Yeah.
what happens? Apple will throw up essentially a notification if they detect that and say, it looks like this is, sensitive content. Are you sure you want to send it?
Oh.
And then the kid can say, yes, I am sure, and send it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Or are you sure you want to view it? And the kid can say, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure I want to view it. Whereas with Bark, we're rolling out a nudity redaction feature literally as we speak that will prevent that from even happening in the first place.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, they don't get the option to send a nude photo. They should not be able to send a nude photo.
They shouldn't be able to even take a nude photo and have it saved to the camera roll.
Yeah.
It should poof disappear.
Right. The technology exists. You guys are going to start using it, right? Like,
Yes.
it exists. So let's use it for our kids to protect them. We're not in the age maybe anymore or ever where we can be sending nudes back and forth. It's just, we're done with that.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea for everyone.
Sorry, kids.
Sorry, kids. Don't do it.
As our kids get older, so I want to start off really bare bones, but as they get older, we want to start giving them more apps. For example, they may need some internet browsing to like research for school or something, but I don't want them to access dangerous or inappropriate areas. So how does the filtering as far as like what they can access on an internet browser, for example, compare between the iPhone and the Bark phone?
So I just showed you Apple's like confusing, complex, and buggy, stupid system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you with Bark. I'm going to go to Ella. Ella is my fake daughter.
Yeah.
So here's Ella, right? I click on her Bark phone.
Uh-huh.
I can set up all kinds of settings. I can just turn it off, like with one button, be like, no browser for Ella. And in fact, we even have a starter plan. Some families they're like, I will never, ever be letting my child use a browser, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So they get the Bark phone. That's $29 a month. And all it can do is text and call and take pictures and track location.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then as they get older, though, if you did want them to be able to use a browser, you can just email us, call us and be like, hey, can you unlock that?
Yeah.
And you don't have to get a whole new phone. We can just unlock it for you.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You can allow or not allow certain types of content, games, streaming services, social media, and you can set times. You can require app approval. You can allow app removal. You can allow the app store or not.
Mm-hmm.
Toggle on or off the ability for your child to receive voicemail. I mean, some kids will just torture kids via voicemail, right? It's like, I'm just going to turn that off.
Yeah.
Or let's make spam calls, for example. There's so many things you can customize with the Bark phone, and not to get off on a tangent.
So that's just your Bark app on your iPhone.
My Bark app on my iPhone can control Ella's Bark phone.
Okay. And from a browser too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go on my computer right now. I could screen share and show you, like, I can control these things from my computer.
Yeah.
On the phone.
Easy. Okay. So simpler, way more functionality to control the kids' activity or be able to monitor it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important things in giving your kid a phone and letting them start to have access to different apps and technologies or areas of the phone. We want to be able to monitor them. I mean, you might not want to spend all day doing it, but one of, I think, the key things for me is that with the alerts, you don't have to be scrolling through every single thing, right? So tell me about Bark alerts.
Like I said, I've got Ella. She's my 13-year-old daughter that I create test accounts with. But as Ella, I went on a variety of different platforms. And let's just take Kick, for example, which is a horrible, horrible cesspool of an app.
Yeah.
On Kick, there was graphic sexual content. You know, when you look at a video you might watch and it's a still, right? You don't know what's going to play, but you just see the cover image of the photo.
Mhm.
The cover image of the photo was two naked people in the act of intercourse.
Oh my
So I didn't even have to play the video
Uh-huh.
to be exposed to that. So if I'm a 13-year-old girl, I've now been exposed to graphic sexual content. And then shortly thereafter, I got a bark alert, you know, graphic sexual content that Ella had been exposed to. And it let me know this happened on the Kick app, and here's how to talk to your child about it. You know, now, thankfully, I don't actually have a 13-year-old daughter named Ella that was exposed to that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we know that there are millions and millions of children who are exposed to all kinds of things every single day.
Because it can make all the difference when your kid sees something inappropriate, and they're likely mostly not going to tell you about it. So you don't have an opportunity to guide them and explain to them, is that normal? What am I seeing? You know, let me help you feel safe again, because a lot of that stuff can make them feel unsafe. And so it gives the parent the opportunity to have that conversation. What about the iPhone? Does the iPhone offer alerts in a similar way?
I'm laughing. No, the iPhone does absolutely not. iPhone is the company that is dedicated to privacy.
Right.
So they want nothing to do with analyzing the content and context of your communications. And they certainly don't want to have anything to do with alerting anybody about what they contain.
Okay.
So, and I get it for adults who want privacy. It makes sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But for children who are encountering the worst of humanity, not just sexual content, all of the things, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, violence, drug and alcohol related content.
Eating disorder content.
We need some alarms.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I mean, it's so important because
Good, great, wonderful.
I know, like our kids are going to access inappropriate things, and we just have to be having those conversations to guide them. And it's really important that we know what they're seeing. It's different nowadays. Like this is the first time where our kids are accessing this type of inappropriate content so young.
Yeah.
It's important to know what they're seeing.
It is important. It's so important. I mean, there's so many things. And I know, like, every time we talk, we're like, and another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, with iPhones, they have lockable browsers. You know, kids can just create a private browsing window, protect it with Face ID. And then if you're a parent and you're going in after the fact trying to look at your child's search history, you're not going to be able to see what they've been looking up, which is, again, problematic if they're looking at, you know, how to die by suicide or other terrible things.
Right.
You know, that's not the case with Bark. So it's really pretty fascinating what our team has been able to build. They really looked at, okay, if and when it is time for my child to be able to access a smartphone,
Mm-hmm.
what should they be allowed to do? What could they do I can have peace of mind about, right?
Yeah.
What are the landmines we need to avoid? Or when you build a smartphone with kids in mind, you build a phone very differently than when you build a smartphone that prioritizes privacy of adults.
Right. That's the key thing is we're giving adult phones to kids when you're giving them an iPhone. Kids don't need adult phones.
Yes. And we were talking about analogies. You know, my son will be 16 in less than a year. I could give him a very reliable, safe, let's say Honda or Toyota, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And make sure he wears his seatbelt and make sure he has driver's ed and defensive driving classes and car insurance.
Right.
That would be like giving him the Bark phone. Or I could give him a Ferrari that has no seatbelts,
Right.
right? Just
Yeah.
0 to 60. Just
Yeah.
go. Just go. Throw caution to the wind.
No driver's license. No.
Yeah, no driver's license.
Yeah.
Like, who needs car insurance? Like,
Right.
that's what we're doing. When we give our children unprotected, unmonitored, unfiltered tech,
Mm-hmm.
we are giving them access to the entire world, and we are giving the entire world access to them without our supervision.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the worst parenting decisions you can make. And I say that not to judge anyone. I say that as a parent who has done that. I have made that mistake. Please don't do it.
Yeah. Respectfully. Please don't.
Respectfully.
Okay. So a couple other things here. So I don't want my child talking to people they shouldn't be talking to, especially when they're young. You want to be able to approve their contacts. With Bark, you can approve contacts, right? They only get to talk. And if they want to add someone, is there an option for them to like ask you if it's okay to add this person? How does that work?
Yeah. So I just opened my Bark app. I clicked on Ella. I went to contact approval and require contact approval. I can choose which phone numbers Ella can call or text.
Okay.
Which is great because let's say Ella makes a couple new friends. She's in 5th grade. And but then 2 of those friends start to be mean and catty and start to cyberbully her or tease her. We can just go ahead and turn those off. We're just going to cut it off and limit that.
God, yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah, whereas with an iPhone, a parent, you'd have to go to their phone and delete the contact, but then your child could just add it back. Like it's so important to be able to manage those communications and that contact approval.
Yeah. Agree. Okay. If a child's phone's being monitored or a teen, they know what's happening, right? So if they're having some inappropriate conversation, they're going to just delete the messages. On an iPhone, you can do this, no problem. It goes away. But what happens on a Bark phone when kids delete the messages?
With a Bark phone, because of our operating system built into the phone, we will analyze anything that's concerning. When the child goes to delete it, you will have a notification of what that encountered. Also, kids can't delete texts without permission. So
right.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, because there should be no needing to delete unless it's like a storage issue. Why do you have to delete things? I mean, it's similar to like Snapchat. Why does it have to go away? Oh, because it's probably inappropriate. Like,
exactly.
Like let's keep a history of the chats and the things that our kids are doing just in case.
The fact that the Bark phone is tamper-proof, because of Apple's loopholes, there are certain things kids can do sometimes to get around the built-in settings that Apple provides. And at Bark, we've thought through all of those. And it just keeps going back to peace of mind. Yeah. If you want your child to be able to access a tool in a safe way, you should do that with a safer tool that has safety precautions and not no safety precautions.
A tool that was built for kids.
Yeah. And built for kids in a way that respects their desire, to be cool and to learn and be curious. That's why it's not, pink and purple and blue and green. No, it's a very cool Samsung A14. It's very sleek. It's a normal smartphone. It's just safer.
Yeah. So they can get cases, like whatever cute cases they want, if they want to throw it on there, right?
Yeah.
I wish this was here years ago for all the parents who've kind of gone too far with and been harmed by the iPhone use. But I'm so grateful to be able to share this product with parents that's safe for kids. Not even safer, just safe,
Yeah. I mean, it's 2024. This should not be that hard, right? It's out there. Let's use it and let's help our children become responsible digital natives without putting their mental and physical health and lives at risk.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Titania, for that breakdown on the Bark phone versus the iPhone and safety for kids. I hope everyone learned a lot from that. I'm going to include links to check out and purchase the Bark phone below. I will not include a link to purchase the iPhone. Because I think you can guess which my choice will be. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening. And I'm sure I'll be on with Titania again very soon. Thank you.